Hi, I'm Brian Kepper. I'm a 10-time South African motorcycling champion. My family and I have chosen to live in Fourways. There's some really great suburbs in our neighborhood. There's a lot of families living in the surrounding areas in places like Lone Hill and Cedar Lakes. What draws people to Cedar Lakes is that it's so close to Broadacre Shopping Centre, Cedar Square and Fourways Life Hospital. Lone Hill is a major draw card for many families. It's got some great smaller commercial centres and some fantastic schools like Crawford College. From an entertainment point of view, Monte Casino really comes alive at night. There's so much on the go and there's an incredible energy in the area. Our family just loves the fast-paced lifestyle that Fourways brings. But honestly, the thing that attracted us most to this area was the active lifestyle that it offers. As a family, we've chosen to live in Fourways because of the lifestyle and convenience, and this is our neighborhood.
Tips for dealing with the bank. So perhaps you're renting in a property where it is run by a body corporate.
Understanding the basic calculation, income minus expenses, and you want to be left with a positive income.
It is a very tough game. It's not easy at all.
To stay ahead of knowing exactly what your clients need, what their teething issues are.
Have a joint move-in inspection.
That a lot of people that are coming into sectional title homeowners associations are, just like you described, not only first-time homeowners, but first-time owners and residents in community schemes.
They get to see the perspective from the other side of the aisle. And I think that's a really important thing to do.
It's a market that's estimated to be transacting at least 9 billion rand per year. So it's a huge market.
In order to get there, you need to be able to build up a track record.
Your cash flow model needs to be sharp.
A quote comes to mind. The best time to buy a property was about 10 years ago. The next best time is now.
What is a bank at a time like this? In a world filled with uncertainties, where lives are put on hold, business paused, and working together means staying apart. At Absa, being a bank means staying connected. It means being a part of your future, providing relief at a time of need, and doing this through effective, secure online platforms. It means staying in touch when everyone else seems distant. Being a bank means knowing that we've come from far and are yet to go further. Sibuya kude futhi sisaya kude. And that possibly this could be a time for a new beginning, an opportunity to reflect and rebuild. We are alongside you, helping you to finance your dreams and grow your legacies. We are in this together. Regal Fela, Sisoke. Once as Amal San. That is African messaging.
Welcome to your next home. This is the perfect room if you're looking to expand the family. It's perfect. There's a kid's room or a playroom.
Did you say playroom?
Yeah, playroom.
It's not been very bad.
You know what, let me give you a moment. I'm gonna feed the pancake.
Yeah, you go feed the... whatever.
Tips for dealing with the bag. So perhaps you're renting in a property where it is run by a body corporate.
Understanding the basic calculation, income minus expenses, and you want to be left with a positive income.
It is a very tough game. It's not easy at all.
To stay ahead of knowing exactly what your clients need, what their teething issues are.
Have a joint move-in inspection.
That a lot of people that are coming into sectional title homeowners associations are, just like you described, not only first-time homeowners, but first-time owners and residents in community schemes.
They get to see the perspective from the other side of the aisle. And I think that's a really important thing to do.
It's a market that's estimated to be transacting at least 9 billion rand per year. So it's a huge market.
In order to get there, you need to be able to build up a track record.
Your cash flow model needs to be sharp.
A quote comes to mind. The best time to buy a property was about 10 years ago. The next best time is now.
Good evening and welcome to episode 52 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Zama Khumalo. It's the Wednesday edition of the show. That means, of course, we have somebody from Absa who will be helping us manage our money better, help us manage our property better. So if you have any questions or comments on this evening's topic, do send them through below. We're also, of course, later on in the show going to be giving away that 5,000 Rand daily price that we're doing over the course of the next few episodes. That's, of course, 10 episodes. So all you have to do is just stay tuned to find out if you're going to walk away with that 5,000 Rand price. We're, of course, still running that competition where we're asking you all about your property dreams, ambitions, and goals. All you have to do is share them down here below, and you stand a chance of winning one of two 1,000 Rand prizes next week, Friday. We will be doing that lucky draw right here on the Private Property Podcast. Well, we are, of course, staying, in line with the theme of Youth Month and talking about different money matters and property matters that certainly affect us as young people. And this evening, we're looking at multi-generational wealth creation through property with Absa. And to help us better understand how we can better create wealth, especially when we're using property as an asset class, I'm joined this evening by Bongani Mageba, who's the managing executive of non-banking financial services at Absa Relationship Banking. Bongani, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much, Zama.
I think let's just first, sort of start with young people. Oftentimes when I think about money, I share here on the podcast, I turned 30 in January. So oftentimes money issues can be such a contentious topic, such a heavy topic. Sometimes it's very overwhelming. There are so many mistakes that we sometimes, make, certainly in our 20s when it comes to money. And perhaps by the time we kind of get to the 30s, we want to potentially rectify some of the mistakes that we essentially make. What are some of the mistakes that you've seen that young people make when it comes to their money matters?
Well, Zama, thank you very much for that question. I think that's possibly one of the most pertinent questions when it comes to money matters and young people. One of the leading reasons why young people make mistakes that they often do is due to financial illiteracy. And at Absa, we cannot stress this enough, the importance of financial literacy. And in fact, we are involved in a number of other initiatives which are aimed at helping people increase and better their financial literacy. Because without financial literacy and understanding, it's actually very difficult to navigate this world of finances. Some of the mistakes that young people make, and that's the question that you've asked, is firstly is they live excessively and cannot differentiate between things that they do not need and those that they do need. That's one of the biggest things. But often, I think the first thing is, the old adage that says, when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It is so true when it comes to money. And that often is the reason why people live excessively, because they're living without a clear plan as it pertains their finances. And then the host of other causes and behaviors that are displayed by young people. The other behavior is they often postpone saving, especially for retirement, because you tell yourself that you're still young, you'll do it later in life, and you think that you've got a lot of time left. However, the reality is, the longer one waits, the less compound interest you're likely to earn. So the sooner you get in, the better. Because timing the market is better than timing the market in this instance. Also, because of lack of financial literacy, young people have a tendency to misuse credit, which can lead to an undesirable credit profile. And often they pile up debt, and debt can be quite expensive. So without that understanding, you end up actually servicing debt on things that you do not need. And there's a host of other reasons and a host of other causes as well. Maybe we will get to those later as to why young people find themselves there. But those are just some of the few that I've just given you.
Bongani, as you were saying, often one of the repercussions of us not getting in early when it comes to our savings, and I'm also quite guilty of this one, thinking, I'll eventually get to retirement planning, and it's certainly something that gives me a lot of anxiety when I think about it, is of course not being able to take advantage of something like compound interest. I think it was probably in one of my finance courses where you actually look at a model of the time value of money and how much money you would essentially have if you started putting it away at X period, and you kind of like let it sit and compound over the next couple of years. It can be 10, 20, or even longer. And I think so many of us probably aren't aware of some of those things. And it even speaks to how when we certainly start having conversations about money, or being slightly a bit aware of how money affects different parts of our lives, is that we don't have a clear plan in place. And perhaps a bit later on, we'll even look at what are some of the things we actually ought to be planning for. Because we're quite excited, you get that first job, you're going to get your salary, or perhaps it's your first promotion, and you still don't really know what are you supposed to be planning for financially. I mean, you paying your rent and whatever other expenses you have, but what are the other financial instruments you should be looking at, or even asset classes you should be considering investing in for long-term purposes? It's certainly something that I think as young people we still very fundamentally struggle with, or sometimes are even intimidated by. But so, Bongani, I mean, the reality though is that we're now in the middle of a global crisis that is very negatively affecting, our economic standing. Certainly as young people, I think we're quite vulnerable. We saw the unemployment figures coming out just yesterday, and it does paint quite a bleak picture for young people and young women in particular. Now, given that, we're currently going through very tough economic times right now, what are some of the opportunities that Absa essentially has for, young people, or anyone really who's looking to build their legacy and really looking to better their future financial prospects?
Well, I think the first thing I want to do is to acknowledge that the current economic recession is actually quite deep and maybe prolonged. Experts say this could very well be the second deepest recession after the 1929 economic recession. And that has led to massive disruptions to the economy, and South Africans have either lost their jobs or they've had to maintain their households with reduced income and increased living expenses. So we are quite conscious of that. So I'm certainly very, very conscious of that it may not be normal for most people and for many young people. So when we talk about what opportunities may be there, the opportunities vary. But the first thing I've got to certainly say up front is you don't have to navigate these on your own. We certainly believe in financial advice. We strongly believe in financial advice. So one of the key things I would advise young people to do is to get themselves a financial advisor. And you can access this through our various platforms. But you can also go to a physical branch and access for yourself a financial advisor. Because the financial advisor will help you through understanding of your circumstances, your financial behavior, your needs, your goals, to be able to help you put together a plan. And that plan could comprise of a number of aspects to it. Of course, the plan itself will be informed by your own individual risk tolerance, your objectives, as well as the horizon that you want to achieve some level of financial independence or wealth creation. But the plan will take into account whether today do you have any excess disposable income. That's an incredibly important thing. You can't begin to do the things I'm talking about if you do not have any excess disposable income. And to the extent that you do not have excess disposable income, the financial advisor will also help you through that process so you can rejig your finances so that you can have some sort of disposable income and begin to save. We offer a number of opportunities, our advantage being a full service bank that offers both banking and non-banking products. And with the various connections within the bank, it means that we can offer a number of solutions. We are able to offer you market-related solutions. What I mean by that is vehicles that will put you into various asset classes, in particular unit trusts, which allow you to save and also give you the flexibility. So that's discretionary type saving instruments. We can offer you as well non-discretionary type saving instruments, which could be things like structured products for those obviously who have a lot of money, or guaranteed products. But even less than that, we do have a number of non-discretionary vehicles that you can use to save, like a simple thing like a retirement annuity, which does not require a lot of money for you to save towards. So, I mean, scope is quite wide in that regard.
And you should know, so while you've certainly highlighted the different types of vehicles that are potentially available at our disposal, what have you found to be some of the typical barriers, you know, when it comes to people wanting to embark on building their wealth portfolio?
Well, I think there are a number of barriers, and many of them could be specific to a young person and a generation or where they come from, and others, in other words, they're circumstantial, so what I mean, but other barriers could very well be self-created. But as I said, the first one is just having no access to disposable income. The second one is their inability to structure a budget that differentiates between essential and non-essential expenses. And that obviously has a number of other negative consequences. And however, some of the more circumstantial barriers, which are true in this country, is where young people may have to look after parents, siblings, extended family, therefore making it quite difficult to prioritize savings and investments. Sometimes it's referred to in the Black community, at least, as the Black tax.
Yeah.
So a number of young people have that as a challenge. Now, those barriers are barriers that can be overcome through engaging with a financial advisor. And and essentially sticking to your plan. I do want to also say that whilst it is advisable that you start early, it is never too late.
Yeah.
To
And I
start.
think it's certainly something that's been echoed, Bongani, throughout the show that, oftentimes when it comes to investments, certainly we focus quite a lot, quite significantly on property investment. You want to have started 10 years ago, but the next best time to start is certainly right now. And there's certainly different ways that as young people, we can go about learning about, the particular asset class that we are interested in and the different ways that we can make it certainly work for us. I know that, oftentimes when we talk about issues of, barriers, it's always so important, and I'm so glad that you bring it up, that we're also mindful of some of the structural barriers that other young people, certainly in this country, are often faced with. We are, of course, taking your questions and comments at home. Do send them through. We've got some comments coming through from some of our viewers at home. One here is from Bongani Ngobo. She says, we're all taking up space as young people, and it's vital for us to be financially literate, especially if we want to be future property owners. And that's such an important one to bear in mind, that understanding your finances and being able to manage your finances opens up different opportunities, whether it be, being able to use them in property or other asset classes. Another comment coming in here from Patience Malipo is, by the time you get to school, you're already accustomed to a certain lifestyle from home. So if there is a poor money management at home, it's hard to adapt to learnings from school. And that's such a true one there, Bongani. We're going to go for a quick break, and when we come back, I want us to look at some of the advisory services that Absa has, especially in helping us better manage our property portfolios. Because as you're saying, there are various asset classes. Certainly viewers of the Private Property Podcast have a particular interest in property, and we want to be able to manage our property portfolio along with the other asset classes that we've chosen to invest in. Because of course it is quite important that we don't overinvest in one asset class. We want to diversify our investments as much as possible. Do keep sending through those questions and comments. We're going to go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be exploring more of those comments and questions, but also looking at Absa's offering when it comes to their advisory services and how they can better help us manage our property portfolio. We'll be back just after this.
What is a bank at a time like this? In a world filled with uncertainties, where lives are put on hold, business paused, and working together means staying apart. At Absa, being a bank means staying connected. It means being a part of your future, providing relief at a time of need, and doing this through effective, secure online platforms. It means staying in touch when everyone else seems distant. Being a bank means knowing that we've come from far and are yet to go further. Sibuya kude futhi sisaya kude. And that possibly this could be a time for a new beginning, an opportunity to reflect and rebuild. We are alongside you, helping you to finance your dreams and grow your legacies. We are in this together. Regal Fela, Sisoke. Once as Amal San. That is African messaging.
Tips for dealing with the bank. So perhaps you're renting in a property where it is run by a body corporate.
Understanding the basic calculation, income minus expenses, and you want to be left with a positive income.
It is a very tough game. It's not easy at all.
To stay ahead of knowing exactly what your clients need, what their teething issues are.
Have a joint move-in inspection.
That a lot of people that are coming into sectional title homeowners associations are, just like you described, not only first-time homeowners, but first-time owners and residents in community schemes.
They get to see the perspective from the other side of the aisle. And I think that's a really important thing to do.
It's a market that's estimated to be transacting at least 9 billion rand per year. So it's a huge market.
In order to get there, you need to be able to build up a track record.
Your cash flow model needs to be sharp.
A quote comes to mind. The best time to buy a property was about 10 years ago. The next best time is now.
evening and welcome back to episode 52 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Zama. This evening, I'm joined by Bongani Mageba, who's the Managing Executive of Non-Banking Financial Services at Absa Relationship Banking. We're talking about multi-generational wealth creation through property with Absa and really exploring the different ways that we can begin to create that financial legacy, certainly for, the children that come after us. I don't have kids, disclaimer, but we certainly need to, as young people, start thinking about how we're going to go about creating wealth, and perhaps it's for when we retire, or certainly for some of our loved ones when we pass on. One of the issues that Bongani, I wanted us to explore is certainly around Absa's advisory services. How does the advisory services essentially complement and support investment in property?
So, Zama, as I said earlier on, and we spoke about it, the whole concept of compounding and compound interest is one of the biggest miracles. The second, and probably one of the most important ones as well, is that of diversification. One of the key pillars, therefore, of our advisory services is diversification, because that allows us to protect and grow your portfolio through the number of years that you still have or that you still be around. That gives us a wonderful opportunity for us to build a portfolio that is not just exposed to one asset class. And physical property is an unlisted property, and I guess that's what we're talking about here today. It's one of the obviously most important asset classes that we can certainly invest in as young people. And one of the key things I want to talk about is the fact that as you, as a young person, work through and go through your life, going through an advisor is absolutely critical, because you then get an opportunity to access those advisory services. But the advisory services that we talk about here, if you work closely with a financial advisor, is that you can also then get an opportunity to access other services within the banking side of Absa. But for some of our aspirational investors, or yet to be investors, young people, you can get an opportunity, or at least get to establish a budget. So that's a service that can help you with the ability to determine the affordability of purchasing a new home. We'll be able to help you with that. We'll be able to help you as an aspirational homeowner put together possible and we educate you on the possible expenses of owning a home. We'll be able to help you work through what would happen at this point. For instance, interest rates have gone down by about 275 basis points. So it's a good time to get into the property market, but you also have to cater for when interest rates go up. And if you sit with a qualified person, they'll be able to help you through that process. And of course, we would also be able to help you in relation to buying a new home with the type of life cover or disability, or as well as critical illness, and if you lose a job as well. That type of cover is critical when you have committed yourself to buying an asset like a home. So those are some of the services that, through having a relationship with Absa and a financial advisor, you'd be able to access. And I think if you start right, you'll be able to end right as well.
And that's so crucial, Bongani. You actually mentioned something around, how we've got historically low interest rates right now. And it's certainly, something that young buyers, new home, potential home buyers are going to be looking at as a reason to get their foot into the property ladder. Before they take that step, what are some of the things that we should consider? Because I think we also need to be quite mindful that these historically low interest rates don't come because of a natural phenomena or because our economy is necessarily strong. If anything, it's at the back of the global, essentially financial crisis, really. And the Reserve Bank trying to ensure that there's a bit of fiscal easing even within the economy. So what are some of the things that we need to consider before we buy that property? Because I think some of the dangers of historically low interest rates, especially to buyers who don't know better or, you know, haven't learned sufficiently is that there's obviously the danger of being misqualified or misdiagnosed. So you think you qualify for a R1 million bond, but in actual fact, we know these interest rates are going to be going up in the next few months. So in reality, you don't can't quite afford that R1 million bond. So, you know, there's certainly different things to bear in mind before you max out whatever qualifying amount you're going to get should you purchase a property right now. What are some of those things that we should be considering that, we are, of course, facing historically low interest rates?
So, Zama, you mentioned something quite important here. You know, even though the forward rate agreement markets point to an environment where we may continue to experience the low interest rates for the next 12 to 18 months, we should be extremely careful because, as you said, this is not as a result of some natural phenomenon. It is a conflation of global and local factors that have led to such low interest rate. Of course, the pandemic is a key driver. And therefore, as you go into this asset class, in fact, like any other asset class, you need to take a few things into account. But in relation to buying a new home, you have to be clear about your key consideration for wanting to buy a property or even build a property portfolio. You're getting to your second or third or fourth property. So your investment objective is absolutely key. Clearly, if you're buying your first home, what you're most likely looking at is just physical shelter. And there are a number of advantages, obviously, with property, because you can also unlock the value of the property. The second key thing you've got to consider is the time horizon. You wouldn't necessarily be getting into physical property to get out of it in the next year or two or three, even for that matter. So the time horizon is absolutely critical when you're getting into property. The third important thing, which is I think is a deal breaker for many relative to their income, is things like transaction costs. Because this transaction carries with it some costs, as well as, of course, ownership costs. That often is a deal breaker. That's what leaves the sour taste in most people's mouths once you have your beautiful home, once you have the home that you've been looking for. And I think number 4 is you've got to look at what diversification benefits you're looking for. In other words, if all you have in your portfolio is physical property, you've got a concentration problem.
Yeah.
So all of these things are absolutely critical, and you've got to walk through them quite carefully so that you don't just find yourself having been sold the property that a year or 2, 3 down the line sits as an albatross around your neck, instead of you enjoying it. Even if you're building a portfolio, it's very, very important to understand what your time horizon is, the diversification benefits that comes from owning physical property or unlisted property.
So, so Bongani, you've certainly been in the game. You're even a banking man. If you could essentially, rewind to 10, maybe 20 years ago and almost start over, what investment decisions would you make now, knowing what you've certainly accumulated in knowledge over the past few years in your career?
Well, I think like most of us, I had 2 things that I had to deal with. One was black tax. So I had a level of black tax. And 2, servicing a bit of my student loan. So those are 2 things I initially had to deal with.
Yeah.
But, looking back, I think I tended to those differently. And I think what I certainly did was to go in and try and pay these things over 3-4 years, when I think I could have been doing some of this simultaneously. You start working, you want to pay these things off. I think I could have been doing some of it simultaneously with getting into certain investment vehicles.
Yeah.
Because then you're like 22, 23, 24. So I lost a bit of time there.
Yeah.
I think the second thing for me that I could certainly, if I had the opportunity to correct, is this whole thing around delayed gratification. I think many of us suffer from that. Certain things that you want to have, whether it's a car, when you start working, of course, it becomes not just a want, it's a need because you've got to go to work. But I think that's one of the things that I could have done differently and better. And I think the last one is just the lesson. We talk about the 6-month rule in the investment savings space, which is at least you must build your 6 months buffer as soon as you can. In other words, you need to check your earnings and build up 6 months savings of your earnings as quickly as you can, and maintain that as much as possible and increase it as, of course, your life changes. Those are some of the things I think, Zama, I could have done differently. And if I had suddenly the time to rewind, I'd go and fix those things.
One last question, or two last questions. This is the second last one. This one is coming in from Laura McHenry, who asks, is it better to save and then buy, or get 100% bond and pay that off? What are your financial requirements for 100% bond?
Well, I'm not an expert in this, but very few banks these days give necessarily 100% bond. But my advice would be to actually save. Save for some sort of, be clear about what you want, as I said, as part of your portfolio, what you can afford, and begin saving as soon as you can, so that there is at least some buffer between the purchase price versus what your earnings are. And I think it helps a lot. If you can put forward a deposit, it makes a big difference towards your payments, monthly payments, but also makes a big difference towards your ability to absorb shocks. We spoke earlier about interest rates. Interest rates may go up, and I think having paid a deposit and having a lower installment helps to absorb the shocks as the economy changes.
Bongani, I think one of the things that I am very grateful I was able to do was certainly save for some of the transfer fees. Because I think we often only think about the deposit because we are not aware that you still need to pay bond registration attorneys or your transferring attorneys. And that could be a cost that could easily be 20, 30, 40,000 or more, depending on, of course, the purchase price of the property that you're buying. So that's certainly something to, to save up towards. At times when your credit score is good, and you're a new home time buyer, you'll find that banks will extend 100% bond. I know Absa certainly has that 105% bond for young professionals. So I think bond aside, you certainly want to make sure that you have the money for transfer fees where possible, because you also do want to bring down that cost, especially for your primary residence, because unfortunately you can't really claim back the interest that you pay on your primary residence. From SARS, whereas you're certainly able to do that when you structure your portfolio with your rental properties. Now, we've got a quick comment here coming in from Shagong, who says, I'm in my late 30s, and many moons ago, I laughed when a financial advisor at a firm in the same building asked me at lunch one day what I was doing to secure my retirement. It seemed galaxies away. I'm just glad he persisted and convinced me to listen. And that's, of course, one of the things Bongani was highlighting, that oftentimes we wait until too long to start that retirement conversation and planning for our retirement. I know I'm slightly guilty of this. It gives me quite a lot of chest pains thinking about retirement planning and estate planning. It can be quite overwhelming. But Bongani, before we let you go this evening, any closing comments for some of our aspirational homeowners, or who are or even aspirational, property investors, when it comes to why they should be choosing Absa's advisory services?
Well, thank you for the opportunity that you've given Absa and the opportunity for me to come through this evening. I think, as I said, Zama, it is very, very, very important that you choose carefully. One of the key things, as I said, that you will get when you at least establish a relationship with us is we will walk with you the journey. And often it requires that at the beginning, there is a fair amount of financial literacy that you need to get to be able to establish your own desires, goals, and what you want to do. And our advisory services will help you do that. Our advisory services will also help you establish some sort of goal or plan that you can work with and within that, your budget, your desired budget. Okay. Over and above that, we've got a full suite of savings, investment, risk, estate planning. We've got a whole suite of products, including portfolio management and stock broking services. Those are all services that are available within our advisory services. So depending what your investment objective is, your horizon, we are able to cater for all your needs. And as a full service bank, as a bank assurer, you don't have to walk out of the branch to go and get needs, those other needs serviced somewhere else. We are able to meet all your needs in one go, essentially. And we stay with you the journey. That's the beauty as well of going through a bank, because you also have a view of your banking products together with your non-banking products. That's one of the biggest advantages, essentially. So we would like to invite certainly young people. One of the biggest things that young people can do for themselves, Zama, is to invest in their own financial literacy. That investment will not go to waste.
And that's such an important point, Bongani. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
And that is Bongani Mageba, who is the Managing Executive for Non-Banking Financial Services at Absa Relationship Banking. We're going to go for a quick break. When we come back, we're giving away that 5,000 Rand prize. You do not want to miss that one. Remember, of course, people who entered this competition were the ones who entered the 100,000 Rand prize. So you don't need to enter this one. But of course, there is that 1,000 Rand competition that you can enter if you want to stand a chance to win it next week, Friday. We're going to go for a quick break. And when we're back, we're going to be announcing our winner.
What is a bank at a time like this? In a world filled with uncertainties, where lives are put on hold, business paused, and working together means staying apart. At Absa, being a bank means staying connected. It means being a part of your future, providing relief at a time of need, and doing this through effective, secure online platforms. It means staying in touch when everyone else seems distant. Being a bank means knowing that we've come from far and are yet to go further. Sibuya Gode, Futi Sisaya Gode. And that possibly this could be a time for a new beginning, an opportunity to reflect and rebuild. We are alongside you, helping you to finance your dreams and grow your legacies. We are in this together. Regal Fela, Sisoke. Once as Amal San. That is African Nasty.
Welcome back to episode 52 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Zama Kumalo. You know, every time I have to talk about wealth building, estate planning, or retirement, I literally get chest pains. I think I almost want to not adult too much, but certainly as some of our viewers at home have shared, it does make quite a big difference when you start early. And as our guest Bongani shared, you want to start as early as possible. I mean, when I look at the model for the time value of money and how even if you're putting away, let's say 10,000 rands and you put it away 10 years ago and you were maybe adding in X amount every month, how much that could potentially compound to in the coming years. So it is quite a daunting one, but I know that many of you are probably like me, we still need to do it. I think planning for when we retire is such a crucial thing that we need to not negate, but really do need to plan for. But It is, of course, that time of the show where we give away that 5,000 Rand prize. We're ready to pick a winner. And of course, this is a prize that we're giving away for the next 10 episodes. And we started a few days ago and we're announcing this winner. There are really just 3 rules. The competition is open to people who entered that 100,000 Rand competition. And this also includes the estate agents as they are not employees of private property. One winner is going to be drawn just as we're about to do right now, and is going to be announced right here on the Private Property Podcast. And lastly, the winner is going to be contacted within 24 hours of winning. It's important that we contact them to verify their details. And certainly at home, if we can't reach you in that 24 hours, then the prize money rolls over. And so we'll end up potentially having more than 10 giveaways because we couldn't reach somebody. So you want to make sure that you stay close to your phone, that you pick up the call when we, give you that ring. And I think on our side, we're ready to pick that winner. We're ready for that picker to start giving us good selection of who is going to potentially win. We know, of course, over 46,000 names were included into this particular competition. So it's really picking from over 46,000 names, and you get to walk away with that 5,000 Rand cash prize, which I'm sure is going to go such a long way, especially right now. I know that this is something that I would certainly want. I don't even know what I'd do with it, but it would go quite a long way. And we've got our winner, and our winner is Katleho Simon Ndukula. That is Katleho Simon Ndukula. Congratulations to you. You walk away with that 5,000 Rand prize. Well, folks, that's it for us this evening. Congratulations to Katleho. Thank you so much for tuning in at home. Of course, always remember, if you have any suggestions or topics that you want us to cover, do send them down below, and we'll be sure to bring in the right experts to help us better understand that particular issue. That's it for me this evening. We're back again tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. We're coming to you live from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So different platforms that you can stream in and watch us. Until then, I hope you're staying at home and staying safe.
Hi, I'm Brandon Ribbing. I'm an entrepreneur from Durban. The suburbs of Berea and Morningside are built on a natural ridge that overlooks the home of the Sharks, the Moses Mabhida Stadium, Durban Country Club. It's just got an incredible outlook elevated over the city. Living in Morningside makes so much sense to us because everything is so central. Anything that we choose to do is a couple of kilometers away or a couple of 100 meters away. Restaurants, coffee shops, it's all here on our doorstep. We've got great schools here. The girls' schools just close by are Moristella and Durban Girls College, and then fantastic boys' schools, Durban Preparatory High School, DPHS, one of the top primary schools in the country, and then Clifton, which now goes all the way to high school. It's so convenient to be in this area where everything is close by. Some of our closest friends stay just across the Bongani River in Durban North. Durban North is very family orientated with some great schools, some excellent restaurants, and some small commercial centres. The promenade along Durban's beachfront, also known as the Golden Mile, got an incredible facelift for the 2010 World Cup and today is used by all of Durban's population. We as a family love the Durban beachfront. And if we're not on the water, you'll find us on our bicycles along the promenade. Being a world paddleboard champion, I've travelled to some of the most amazing beaches around the world, but nothing comes close to what we have here in Durban. Durban has great weather and great conditions all year round for surfing and for training and just being in the ocean. And that's why it's known as the warmest place to be. We've lived here our whole lives, and there's no place we'd rather be, and this is our neighbourhood.
Hi, I'm Clifton Smithers. I live in Belito, where my partners and I run a business called Union 3. As a family, we chose to move here about 6 years ago. What attracted us to the area was the safe and relaxed lifestyle of the North Coast. We're surrounded by so much natural beauty, and we love that it's so casual. It's just not as intense as a busy city. In fact, that's one of the main reasons there's so many people moving into the area. There's some amazing lifestyle estates out here. We've got Bali, Brettonwood Estate, and Zimbiti, to name a few. The Belito Lifestyle Centre caters to everyone's needs. There's also some smaller commercial centres like Tiffany's and Salt Rock. There's some excellent restaurants to choose from, and there's a really wide variety of activities on offer. From mountain biking out on the trails to surfing at any one of the beaches, there really is something for everyone. This quiet little town really comes alive over the weekend. The live concerts and the farmers market at the Lychee Orchard is very popular. With the new international airport just 15 minutes down the road and the unmatched lifestyle that this place offers, it's no wonder that the North Coast is the fastest growing town in South Africa. My family and I absolutely love it here, and this is our neighborhood.
What is a bank at a time like this? In a world filled with uncertainties, where lives are put on hold, business paused, and working together means staying apart. At Absa, being a bank means staying connected. It means being a part of your future, providing relief at a time of need, and doing this through effective, secure online platforms. It means staying in touch when everyone else seems distant. Being a bank means knowing that we've come from far and are yet to go further. Sibuya Gode, Futi Sisaya Gode. And that possibly this could be a time for a new beginning, an opportunity to reflect and rebuild. We are alongside you, helping you to finance your dreams and grow your legacies. We are in this together. Regal Fela, Sisoke. Once as Amal San. That is African Nasty.
Tips for dealing with the bank. So perhaps you're renting in a property where it is run by a body corporate.
Understanding the basic calculation, income minus expenses, and you want to be left with a positive income.
It is a very tough game. It's not easy at all.
To stay ahead of knowing exactly what your clients need, what their teething issues are.
Have a joint move-in inspection.
That a lot of people that are coming into sectional title homeowners associations are, just like you described, not only first-time homeowners, but first-time owners and residents in community schemes.
They get to see the perspective from the other side of the aisle. And I think that's a really important thing to do.
It's a market that's estimated to be transacting at least 9 billion rand per year. So it's a huge market.
In order to get there, you need to be able to build up a track record.
Your cash flow model needs to be sharp.
A quote comes to mind. The best time to buy a property was about 10 years ago. The next best time is now.
next home. This is the perfect room if you're looking to expand the family. It's perfect. There's a kids' room or a playroom.
Did you say playroom?
Yeah, playroom.
I've been very bad.
You know what, let me give you a moment. I'm gonna feed the pan.
Yeah, you go feed
Okay.
the...